Hi everyone, welcome to my very first YouTube video. This is Melissa Ullmann, the creative Chatterbox, who is also an independent advisor for Creative Memories. Welcome, glad to have you here. I hope to share some of my creative talents with you as we create today's layout. So, before I forget, don't forget to subscribe and like. That'll keep me being able to share with you through this avenue. So today we are going to create this layout. It is a folded jumbo circle. I'm going to show you how to create it. So this sample here is using Q the blue. And then this sample here is using the brand new Painted Garden. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, has some great elements to it and perfect for spring. And then this is using the Creative Memories NSD 2023 collection. So I used the citrus slice on this one, and then on this one I used the Border Maker cartridge that is an advisor exclusive. If you are interested and don't have an advisor, I can help you get this Border Maker cartridge. All right, so today we are going to use the new Painted Garden. And it's just a beautiful overall collection. So we're going to need these products. You're going to want your trimmer, and you're going to want a scoring blade for your trimmer. You're going to want your Border Maker system and your Border Maker housing unit. This housing unit and system come together, but then you're going to want a cartridge, and you're going to want a Border Maker cartridge that has a repeat pattern. They all do to some extent, but we are going to be using it in a way that this particular pattern would not work. So you have to have repeating patterns, and these are different patterns, different houses, different cutouts. And you'll understand once we get to that point. So just making sure it's a repeated pattern. You're also going to want a pencil and a ruler. You're going to want your jumbo circle, custom cutting pattern, and your mat, your 13-inch mat, and the red blade. So you can pull out your other blades, but we're only going to be using the red one. And then you are going to want a piece of cardstock and 3 pieces of designer paper. One of the papers you're going to want to like both sides of, and that has contrast between it. So this is a great one that has a nice contrast between, and we're liking both sides. I'm also going to show you how to incorporate one of the mats from the Variety Mat Pack. You're going to want repositionable and regular adhesive, and of course, if you know me at all, you know I love my foam squares. And we will finish it off by using our foam squares with our embellishments and our stickers. And the foam squares will help give that dimension. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna start first and foremost. We have our mat in place, but let's take our cardstock. The cardstock that we chose for this layout, and we're going to cut out the inside of this cardstock piece, leaving 1 1/4 inch frame. So to do that, we are going to place our cardstock so it sits at 1 1/4. And then the really awesome part about this Creative Memories trimmer is that the blade punctures where this white line is. From that white line to each of the edges, there's 1 inch. So if we want this to puncture at 1 1/4 inches, we're going to make sure the edge of this is at 2 1/4 inches. We'll puncture down or push down And then at the bottom, we want the blade to stop 1 1/4 inches up. So from 12 inches, that would, subtracting out 1 1/4 would be 10 3/4 inches. So from 1 inch from this line to the edge, then we're going to stop when that edge hits 11 3/4. Okay, so that cuts a slit in that without going all the way through. We're going to rotate it again, placing it at 1 1/4, and we will just continue to puncture at 2 1/4, stopping at 10 3/4. That will give us 1 1/4 inches all the way around. This is going to leave us just enough from the inside piece to cut our mats from. Okay, so we're going to take this inside piece and set it aside. We will be cutting our mats from this, but for right now, we will set that aside. So now we have our base piece right here. This is the canary cardstock, which pairs beautifully with this collection. So now we're going to take our next piece of designer paper, and for that we're going to use this beautiful bright pink, kind of an eggplant. Maybe raspberry would be, and the back side has this nice floral pattern, but we won't be using that. So let's turn this over, and we're going to cut this piece to measure 11 1/2 by 11 1/2. So we'll line that up, we'll cut off a 1/2 inch from each side. Okay, so the mat measures 11 1/2 by 11 1/2. So we'll just take this, and because there's nothing on the center here, we are just going to be placing our adhesive just around the outside edge of this designer paper. All right, so now we'll just take and center this piece on top of the yellow or canary cardstock. Not quite centered there, so let's go ahead and also I would probably not adhere this or center it with repositionable adhesive, because it may not be strong enough to keep this piece of designer paper on the cardstock. All right, so we have our base piece. We are actually going to take and set that aside. And now we're going to take the piece of paper that we like both sides of and has contrast. So this is the piece of paper that we're going to be using for that. Let's go ahead and center this on our mat. All right, so we've got that centered. Now we're just going to take our jumbo circle custom cutting pattern. And I like to try to center it because I like to save the piece that we're going to cut away on a future layout. So centering it the best you can. Then we're going to take the red blade and we will go on the outside all the way around the jumbo circle. All right, so this is the piece here I like to use. So go ahead and set it aside. We won't be using it for this project, but it can definitely be used on a future project. All right, so now we're going to take this circle and we are going to cut it in half. So a really cool tip to cutting this in half is if you just take the circle and place it so the edges here are lined up along these two like trays. You kind of like push it in there, and where that lays centers it. Okay, so we'll just cut through the center there. So that's going to give us two sides. Now what we want to do is we're going to take each one of these and we are going to center it along this 6-inch vertical line on our mat. So both of the ends down here kind of just slightly go over the line on the top and the bottom. Then you are going to take your ruler and we're going to place the ruler along this 45-degree angle right here. So get your ruler lined up along that 45-degree angle. We'll take our pencil and just go along our edge. So our pencil line goes at the 45-degree angle along here. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other half. So centering that vertically on this line. Again, this end up here and down here just are going slightly over that 1/2-inch line. Placing our ruler again on our 45-degree angle and using our pencil. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take each one of these pieces and I'm going to turn it over, and you don't have to, but the end in which we are going to punch using our border maker system. So we are going to take that, and you see here, that's the bottom end. So we're going to place this in here. Okay, and we're going to make sure when you put this in your tray that it's all the way to the bottom or towards you. And we'll place the magnetic arm down, fold this back. We're going to place our border maker cartridge inside of the housing unit. And you see how this little groove here is going to line up with these little notches here, and you will feel it kind of slide into place. So we're going to punch once and then twice. Okay, so just along the first two notches. So let's go ahead and do that part with both of these. So again, this is the edge we want to be cutting on. So we're going to turn that over. And again, punching those first two notches. Okay. So now we are going to take this piece, we're going to turn it over, and we're just going to leave our border maker cartridge in the housing unit. We are not going to be using the arm this time. We're going to line this up, this pattern up here, and we're going to line it up so it's going to punch just past that pencil line there. So just past the pencil line. Okay, so that is why we don't want to punch it a full third time on using the arm or the main piece, because then it's going to go too far, and you'll understand here in just a second. So again, we'll turn this over and we'll line this pattern up from the back side and punch. All right. So we're just going to take the scissors, and there's just going to be a tiny bit right here at the end that we need to cut off. Okay, right along that pencil line at the end, like so. All right, so now we are going to use our trimmer, and we are going to be changing out our blade to the scoring blade. So we'll place that in our housing unit. And then we're going to line up this pencil line here on the dotted line here on the cutting mat. So make sure they're lined up at the top and the bottom. If you're in question, you can use your little guides here to kind of run it over the top to make sure it's going to score right on that pencil line. So we'll just score, and then we'll do the exact same thing with our other piece. So we'll go ahead lining that up on that dotted line and score. All right. So now we're going to take these two pieces of paper. You're going to fold them back on your score line, like so. We'll do the other one here. All right, so now, and you can decide, like maybe you want it to be like this. Turn this around. So maybe you want it like that instead. So you decide which of the patterns that you want to show or not show. So maybe we'll go this direction and show up a little bit more of the green. So we'll just take this and use a repositionable adhesive on the back side of that flap, and then fold that over. We're going to do the same thing on this one. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to be placing one on one side and one on the other. So let's bring our base back out here. Okay, so they're gonna go, one's gonna go up, one's gonna go down. If we would have flipped in the other way, then you would have had one of them down on the right bottom corner and one of them in the up left-hand corner. So this is just going to be a little bit opposite of what we previously did, but let's go ahead and flip that over, and we'll just put adhesive on the back side, and we will place this that far bottom left corner. And we're going to turn this over. Okay, so just like that. So now, once we have these two pieces in place, we are going to bring back that center piece from our frame on the outside. Making sure we put our straight blade back in here. And we're going to start by cutting this at 6 inches. And then rotating it and cutting at 4 inches and 4 inches. And then this strip that we have left over is 3.5 inches wide. So we're just going to rotate that and cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 3.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and adhere our mats into place. So I'm going to tuck that under there, but I'm going to give it about 1/2 inch between this edge and the top edge of this border. So you can go ahead and adhere that into place. again, about a 1/2 inch from this edge to the top of this edge. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite corner. Tucking that there, and about a 1/2 inch here on the side to a 1/2 inch here. Okay, and dead here. Then we're going to take these 2 square pieces and we're going to place them opposite. Now you can go so these are even here on this side, or you can just pull them down a little bit. And I like kind of how we could just pull it up so it's about a 1/2 inch lower than this other one, and you can make sure that this corner aligns with that, or if you wanted more space you can pull it out. I am going to make sure that those corners align. We'll pull it out a little bit further. Okay. So we want to make sure our spacing between this and the one we're going to put up here are the same. So we can play with that. Again, we're going to make sure that this corner aligns and the spacing here and here is the same for visual purposes. So it's about the same distance above up here as it is down here. So we'll place that. I love adding more color, and so with that I am going to double mat these cardstock pieces, and I thought this would be a great place for us to pull back some of this raspberry looking paper. So I have a piece just big enough for us, so we're going to cut these double mats so they're 3 3/4 inches wide. We'll rotate that and cut at 5 3/4, and then again at 5 3/4. Now we want 2 pieces that are going to be 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So these are 1/4 inch smaller on both as a whole from the cardstock mats. All right, so now we'll just take these double mats and center it right on the top of that mat. So see how nicely it pulls that raspberry color from the base? It's just enough, and then once you put your photos on top of them, the photos will really pop off of this base. All right, so once we have those double mats in place, now what we're going to do is we're going to add either a strip of paper along the base here, or we can add a sticker border. So there's some adorable little birds, hummingbirds on those, so we could place those at the top and the bottom. If you don't like any of those, an option would be to use a chain style border maker cartridge and punch along the top and bottom. Or if you don't necessarily care for that, we could take another strip of the paper from the mats, or maybe even a different piece of paper. So we could use a yellow, a white, and we can add that along the top and bottom edge. And these are just simple 1/2 inch strips. So we'll cut inch and a half of an inch. All right, so we're gonna want them to be 11.5 inches long. So they're gonna be the width of your piece of paper versus the width of the base. So we're just gonna take these 12-inch strips and cut off a half of an inch from the ends. All right, we'll take our adhesive. We're gonna center this kind of between the bottom of the raspberry paper and this, like the edge or bottom of this. So it might be about 1/4 of an inch between each one of those. We'll do the same then along the top. All right, so now we have our base of our layout all completed. Now this is a great time for us to add embellishments or stickers. And this collection has so many wonderful pieces. So there's some great titles, Meant to Be, All Things Grow with Love, Birds and Bees and Flowers and Trees. Or look at here, like, isn't this gorgeous? These little birds. So we could set that so it's kind of coming in off of the side here. But of course, we need to add a few foam squares behind it. So we'll use the smaller ones on this and kind of make sure that they are distributed throughout on the bottom side. And just kind of place this. Also, another tip for you is if you're gonna be placing a photo here and you don't have it right away, a good thing for you is just put a little piece of paper, or don't take the backing off of your foam square until you get that photo there. Then you can take the backing off and stick it down. So I kind of like this guy here. I also like that, like, we would want to kind of pull in, and he might be just a little bit, there we go. They're gonna fall out of the nest if I don't straighten them out there a little bit. Okay, so now we want to kind of pull that hummingbird look or feel into the rest of our. So I love using our little 5x7 boxes for, there we go. So we kind of are following through with our hummingbirds, and you notice that I place them in a triangle shape and breaking it down into thirds. So I have the left third, the center third, the right third, the top third, the center third, the bottom third. And that's just a design piece. That is how I have learned through the years of taking design principles and applying them to a scrapbook page. That was what I was passionate and taught about when I did work for Creative Memories home office 10 years ago, and then again after the new company. All right, get those foam square tabs out of there. So we'll just place it like so. It's always great to have like one element, whether it's leaves, and in this case is the hummingbirds, but always like a similar element to place throughout. So with that, let's see what else we might. We have, you know, a couple leaves that we could maybe layer behind here. So you always want one of your clusters, your sticker clusters, to kind of be that main cluster for you. So a focal point, and then the other ones are more simple and play off of that. So here we kind of have our main cluster right now. Let's see about adding a title. We could, a little bird told me, you know, we've got little birds here, rain or shine, spring, love bug, a ray of sunshine, my garden. Let's go with this one. A little birdie told me, or a little bird, I should say. We'll just kind of place that here, but we are going to need to put some foam squares behind there. And place it like so. So this is already bumped up on a foam square here, so the sticker will just nicely fit on top of it there. The others you can leave, or if you wanted, you know, there are some smaller elements, some raspberries, some bumblebees, if you wanted to add. I am going to add just one little gem kind of to each one of those pieces, and I'm going to pull out this green color. So we'll just kind of place one somewhere along. Okay. And you don't want to put it too far away from that piece. You want to kind of keep that along with it. So now you've got that gem as well that pulls it across. All right, so now all you have to do is add some photos. If you are one that loves to have things in print, hop on over to my website and you are able to print the instructions for this layout. Thank you guys for joining me. Again, make sure you ring the bell, you subscribe, and you hit like. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.